On today's episode, a preview of Germany's toughest mudder with Anke Frederich.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You are listening to the number one rated OCR podcast in the world, obstacle course racing podcast in the world. Thank you for listening and for leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Amazon.com. Usually, I have a long and lengthy pregame that I've kind of prepared for you, but today I am about to get on an airplane to go to Berlin. So we're kind of shooting from the hip here, keeping it real, like the kids say. I don't think the kids say that. Hey, before we get straight into the content, I just want to mention two things. And they're both relating to other obstacle course racing podcasts. One is Trevor Psychos. Trevor freaking Psychos, if you need him. He just ran over 200 miles, over 60 hours plus, across Scotland. And he's probably going to win Germany's toughest mudder this weekend if he races it. He talked with Heather Bodie of the Overcome and Run podcast. You should check that out. Check out that interview. It's done right after or very soon after he just ran 200 plus miles. You can still hear the fatigue in his voice. It's a great story and a well done episode. Good job, Heather. The other thing is Mike Stefano and Caitlin Ritter of the Obstacle Running Adventures podcast had an episode recently. And again, if I had done... You know, this is kind of freeing, the not thinking or not worrying about editing. Like, I don't care. Like, I do care. I care a lot. But I'm trying to get this content up before I jump on an airplane, so I don't have time to go through and edit. And this is what other people do every single week, and it's great. I see why you do it. Anyway, Mike and Caitlin have an episode recently where Caitlin ran her first, I think it's 7 miles or 8 miles race, and she trained for it, and this is a big deal, and she worked hard for it, and she did well in her race, and she was so excited. And at the end, they have on their episodes, they have they talk at the beginning, then they have their interviews, and they come back at the end and they talk again and kind of, hey, what's going on and to hear the excitement in Caitlin's voice over what she did and her accomplishment and how proud she was inspiring. It legitimately made me want to go out and run. And I'm not Mr. Runner guy. That's not really my jam. I enjoy it when I do it. I do. But getting out there takes some motivation for me usually. And Caitlin, well done. Congratulations. You inspired me last week. On today's episode, we're going to talk with Anke Frederich. Anke is a German mudder who travels all over the world, legitimately travels all over the world to do Tough Mudder races. She travels more than any other person I know, even more than Jim Campbell and those guys that have 100X. Not going to edit. Hey, woohoo, look at us. Shoot me an email, willhicks@gmail.com if this is terrible, because it's 2:15 in the morning as I'm recording this, about to jump on an airplane in a couple hours to go to Berlin. And honestly, I can't even tell right now. I might go back and delete this whole episode. So if you got to listen to it, if you got to download it, save it, because it might not be here next week. I totally lost my train of thought. I apologize. This is terrible. How do people do this every week? Oh my gosh. Anyway, Anke Frederich travels all over the world. One of the, if they were to track mileage, I would bet money on her traveling more miles to do more Tough Mudders than anyone else in the world. And she's from Germany. This weekend is Toughest Mudder Berlin. Germany's Toughest Mudder. This is the first Toughest Mudder held in Germany ever. It's very exciting. It's also the last nighttime Toughest Mudder of the year, and it's the next to last Toughest Mudder of period. If this is your first episode, I apologize, but Toughest Mudder is an 8-hour race on a 5-mile looped course. The man and woman who run the most laps in 8 hours are the winner. Guys, it's legitimately 2:15 Western Coast, Pacific Coast time as we're talking here. Feel free to fast forward. You know what we're going to do? I'll do you a favor. I'll stop talking. We're going to talk with Anke if you pause this podcast and go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts right now. Deal? All right. I'll see you on the other side.
Will?
Anke.
Hey, good morning. Now it works.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. Anke, this is your second time on the show. It's been a while since we talked, though.
It's been some point mid last year, as far as I remember. So,
Anke,
yeah, it's been a while.
Anke, where are you from?
I'm from Germany, living close to Frankfurt Airport, which is super convenient when it comes to all my crazy Tough Mudder adventures because it's easy to get away.
Anke, you travel more than anyone else that I know for Tough Mudders, even more than Jim Campbell. You travel a lot for Tough Mudder.
Yeah, it's my only hobby. So I put in a lot of time, and it's luckily due to work, it's able to get a lot of weekends off and Mondays off, and that's why I can do all the crazy 48-hour trips to the States.
So yeah, you come to the U.S. a lot. I think I saw you last year at either Chicago or I don't know. There were a couple races I saw you at last year where I was like, "Oh, Anke's here, all the way from Germany."
Yeah, yeah. I was in Chicago. I was in Tri-State. There were many more events in the States. And this year, I've been to New Orleans, which was a great weekend. And I'm just about to fly to Chicago today again because Chicago is just a fun course and it's easy to get to. So that's my plan for the weekend.
So coming up soon is Toughest Mudder Berlin, the first Toughest Mudder in your home country. How excited are you for that?
I'm super excited. It's a great venue. I've been there last year. It's an interesting course. I think you can actually compare it to Chicago because it's super flat. It's got like a little bit of technical terrain, which like roots and rocks, and parts of the course will be on a parking lot. So I think for the top athletes, it's going to be a super fast course, and I think that we actually can expect pretty high mileage. I've spoken to the Getting Tough team just last week. They're still not sure if they want to come, but I know that Adrian Avold is coming over, so the female competition is going to be interesting. And Ulrike Evensen, the girl from Denmark who basically crushed Toughest Mudder in the UK, she will be there, so that's going to be interesting to watch.
I think Ulrike Evensen is the Rhea Kobel of Europe.
Yes, definitely. And she's absolutely amazing, always smiling, always happy. And just by lucky coincidence, we were pitting next to her in Toughest UK, and it was so impressive to watch her and her pit guy. There is such a great team, and it was just fun to watch them all night. And
you mentioned the Getting Tough guys. They've come over to World's Toughest several years in a row now. They won the two-man team category this past year.
Yes. I'm not sure if they come back to Worlds because we haven't talked about that. But I hope they come back because it's fun to see them and it's good to see how efficient they are in course. And they are amazing athletes.
Who are some of the other male athletes you're expecting?
There is rumors about the guy Fabian Singh, who won the age group in Australia to 24-hour enduros, but I'm not 100% sure that he's coming. And Adrian Avold, and she crushed Worlds. And so, yeah, I think, and there's rumors about more people, and especially from Eastern Europe, Spartans, that they are coming over. But unfortunately, I can't give you any names because I don't know them too well. So it's only rumors, but at this point.
I will be coming over to run Toughest Mudder Germany. What are some differences people from the US or the UK can expect?
The difference is it's Well, first of all, getting there is kind of an adventure because you totally cannot rely on public transport. And it's called Toughest Mudder Berlin, but it's actually about 2 hours southeast of Berlin. So flying to Dresden would be actually much more convenient because it's only like half an hour away. What you have to keep in mind that in Germany, stores are closed on the weekend or especially on Sundays. So you want to get everything you need a Sunday afternoon, the very latest, especially in the remote areas of Germany. They're to close. The stores actually close at around noon, which can be a surprise for some. Concerning or regarding the race, Tough Mudder Europe has done a pretty amazing job this season, and they've been super responsive when it came to things we suggest that they could improve. And so I didn't run Toughest UK, but from what I've heard, the course was definitely a challenge. So, for example, in cage crawl, they added little boards, so you had to dive underneath them backwards. Which was a surprise because no one was expecting that. No one has ever seen that before. So I think that's going to be in Berlin as well. And if you have a closer look at the course map, there is something which they call the mystery obstacle. On the regular course map, there's a Creek Crusade. And just last weekend, we had something called Alpha Test in a Tough Mudder Fest in the UK. It was basically 2 slack lines across a small pool of water where you, the idea was to lay on top of the 2 slack lines and to pull yourself across. So that's what we are guessing what it's going to be.
We're going to talk about each of the obstacles, and I actually have some questions for you about the course. But before we get there, let's talk about the weather. As we're a few days out still, but the weather forecast says partly cloudy, low of 53 Fahrenheit, 12 Celsius, 10% chance of rain. What do you think about that weather?
It should be good. Germany has had an exceptional hot summer with like temperatures like 90 plus degrees for several weeks in a row. So I think that the weather change is actually good, and 10 degrees should be fine. There is several parts of trails that go through the woods, so it's not like a completely exposed area. I think we should be good with the weather.
What is your wetsuit plan?
No wetsuit. I've got 1 mil neoprene pants and a long sleeve. And that's the maximum. But I usually like to run a little cold than overheating. So I might actually just take the neoprene long and put it on just in case, and just not go with a regular sleeve and some long pants, and that's it.
Before we talk about the obstacles, is there anything else, like any big differences between the way Germany holds the course versus the US or the UK? Anything, any extra gear or anything you can think of?
No, not really. It's no. I think that's totally the same. And they in the info pack they just said what they always say, like a strobe is mandatory, headlamp is mandatory, bring your own food, bring your own drinks. That's basically the same.
You said you've run this venue before. What's the parking situation like there?
Since it is next to a raceway, parking is super easy, super close. No muddy puddles on the parking lot, so parking is great.
Let's talk about that course. 18 obstacles over a 5-mile, 8-kilometer course. Anke, can you tell me the name of this first obstacle?
It's called in German. It's called Brett vorm Kopf, which is just a small wall, like a 6-foot wall, I would say.
And how does Brett vorm Kopf translate?
It's board in front of your head. That would be like the word by word translation.
Sure. Okay. And so it's just a little wall you just kind of hop over as you're going.
Yeah.
The second obstacle is Kiss of Mud 2.0. How do you do Kiss of Mud?
It's the same. Kiss of Mud is exactly the same.
You just kind of roll through or crawl through the mud there.
Crawl through, roll through, and barbed wire, and the tiny hay balls, and yeah, that's the same.
The third obstacle is my least favorite obstacle. It's Devil's Beard.
Oh yeah, love that one. But that's exactly the same. The net was pretty tight at one of the recent events, so it wasn't that easy to get through. But yeah, Devil's Beard.
So as you're crawling,
everyone loves it.
As you're crawling under that net, do you go head first or butt first? What do you do?
Head first, bear crawl and head first.
The main thing with Devil's Beard at Toughest Mudder I found is it will steal your headlamp in a second if you let it.
Definitely, and will alter the strobes. So that's why even for my first Worlds, I had a strobe which you could wear around your arm, like a bracelet, and that thing worked great. So that's what I highly recommend, instead of those clip-on strobes that many people use.
Good tip. The fourth obstacle is Hold Your Wood. What is Hold Your Wood?
It's Holzförderhütten in Germany, which is, you basically just carry a small log.
The fifth obstacle we just talked about a little bit, cage crawl. I love the idea of sticking those boards in there, because as if cage crawl wasn't claustrophobic enough.
Yeah. I read it somewhere that one guy posted it after Toughest Mudder Europe. He was like, he bumped into the board, didn't know it was a board, and actually apologized to the board, thinking it was someone else. And I hate the idea of diving backwards underneath a board, but it's let's see. It sounds like an interesting twist.
You know, when I go under Arctic Enema, or at least before the changes they made this year, I would go feet first, because I like to know kind of what's, if I'm going to kick something, I'd rather kick it with my foot than my head. But True. I don't know if I'd want to do that with cage crawl. I think I'd still stick to head first.
Yeah, I've seen several people going in feet first. It looks weird, but it's maybe only because I've never tried it. But I would always go head first, because I think you're actually faster if you go head first.
After cage crawl is Arctic Enema. How's Arctic Enema in Europe?
We still got the old version with the tubes where you slide in, and they always make it pretty cold, so they throw in insane amounts of ice. So Arctic Enema is like last year's in the US.
The secret
big container.
The secret to Arctic Enema is it's not going to get any warmer with you staring at it. So just do it.
Very true.
And it's cold, but just get out and start running as soon as you get out. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it's. I think it's just getting used to it. Like first run of the season, first event of the season, I'm standing there like, this is so cold, and I know it's cold, and I don't want to get in, but it's not that bad at all. Like, I don't mind Arctic Enema.
After Arctic Enema is that mystery obstacle we talked about. Now, what do you think the mystery obstacle will be?
If you have a look at the regular Tough Mudder Berlin map, that's a creek crusade or a river crossing. So last weekend they had something new in the UK called the Alpha Test, which was 2 slack lines across a small pool of water where you had to pull yourself across. So that might be what's happening there, or it's just a creek crusade. I don't know. But I think they're going to add like a twist to the creek crusade.
I love the idea of them just experimenting with new obstacles, kind of like they were doing last year. Just throwing something out there and seeing how it goes. And even if it's not an amazing obstacle, that's okay. Just something different, mix it up, and just see how people handle it.
And it's especially for the people who do a lot of events, it's always exciting to see something new. And so since years we're they're guinea pigs, and they just try what works.
After that mystery obstacle is Block Ness Monster. Tell me about Block Ness Monster.
Totally the same. 2 blocks. That's exactly the same setup like in the States.
I've seen some videos of, I think from the UK, it seems like the blocks might be actually longer, like wider. Is that true?
That
possible?
That is possible. The blocks are sometimes very heavy. But I think they might actually be a little bit bigger than in the States. But I'm not 100% sure about that. After
Block Ness Monster is Balls to the Wall. Tell me about Balls to the Wall.
It's a huge wall. higher than Berlin Wall, with a rope where you have to climb up the wall and over using the rope, or they add small boards that you can sometimes use it just like a ladder to climb up.
This is a good obstacle. It's hard, but it's a good obstacle. Like, it's doable even when you're tired.
It is. It's actually one of my least favorite obstacles because I'm terrified of heights. So
that's true. It's about a 12-foot climb.
Yeah. So the idea of falling down balls to the wall absolutely terrifies me. But I agree, it's a good obstacle. And
after balls to the wall is birth canal. Now, what's the German version of birth canal? I've seen the UK. It's a little bit different than the US.
We call it birth canal over here. They don't translate it. Because in German it would be Geburtskanal, which is like very medical. So birth canal is kind of what they do over here, or what they say over here, what they call it over here.
In the U.S., we've been, as you crawl, say you're crawling north to south, the heavy bags that are hanging on you are east to west. And in the UK, at least last year, they were, if you were crawling north to south, the bags were north to south also. They were really hard. I didn't do it, but I heard from several people it's really, really hard. How do they do it in Germany?
Just the same. So the bags are on you could crawl underneath those bags.
The whole time?
The whole time, yeah.
What's the technique for doing that?
Like a buddy of mine, he does it lying on his back. He says it's super fast. To me, it just looks uncomfortable with the big bag of water and put on in your face all the time. So I've never tried it. What I do is I always get down on all fours and just crawl until I couldn't get any further. Then lay down, let the water flow back, and then it's easy to get out.
That's a good idea. After birth canal is mud mile. What does mud mile look like?
Last year's mud mile was fun. It wasn't a big mud mile like in Minnesota, where mud mile was just huge, but it was like medium-sized, slippery mud mile. Just like we all love it.
Mud mile, from week to week, it can be super hard, or it can be worn down and just kind of a fun, muddy splash.
Yeah, it's like the mud mile last year was, I would say, like medium. It was easy. There weren't those super steep hills where you have to climb over. It was just an easy, fun mud mile.
The 12th obstacle is skid marked / the hangover. Do they call it the hangover over in the UK?
Yeah, they call it skid marked. That obstacle actually varies from the UK to Germany, because in the UK they have the big skid marked incline walls, and in Germany it's lower, so it's about like a 7-foot wall, something like that. So it's not that tall, so you can easily get over, and you don't actually need to jump to reach the top board.
So the German ones are a little bit easier than what the UK or US might be used to?
Yeah, unless they change the setup and bring over the big walls.
I don't know what the hangover means when they have, but I think that's a better name for the obstacle, honestly. The hangover?
Yeah, it's at least you can you get a rough idea what it is about. Skid marked is like meh.
After skid marked is funky monkey. How are you at funky monkey?
Horrible. I always fail, so I always go for a swim.
Funky monkey is the monkey bars going up. Do you think we'll have the wheels like the Revolution, or?
Yes, we had. I'm just trying to think back to the last German events, but they had the wheels and they had water, as far as I remember.
That's a good point. Some of the courses this year have not had water underneath Funky Monkey.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, and I think that disappointed many people. But luckily, TMHQ listened and changed that. So in Western New York, they didn't have water, but Minnesota had water, and in the UK, I think almost every event had water. Like Midlands, they didn't have water in Midlands, or Henley was one of the first events. They didn't have water there, but ever since they added the pool.
After Funky Monkey is Hero Walls. We call them...
the Berlin Walls.
Well, why do you think it is that in Germany they don't call them Berlin Walls?
I have no idea. That was something I've trying to figure out since years. I have no idea.
How do you get over the 8-foot walls?
With help, someone boosting me up, and then I get over it.
That's a good point. If this is someone's first Toughest Mudder, it is a competitive event, but everyone will help you. Literally everyone. Even the people that are in contention for the top prizes, they will, at least in my experience in the U.S. Now I've never run a race in Germany or the U.K., but... There's still people around who will help you and who will stop and turn around. And from what I've heard, it's going to be a pretty big event. And conditions are going to be much better, not like in the UK where many people dropped out due to weather reasons. So I think there's going to be more people around at night, and I think there's always going to be someone who's willing to help you. After Hero Walls is Everest 2.0.
That's an interesting point, because they scaled down Everest due to some a really bad newspaper article last year. So we have Everest's small brother, which is I'd say half of the size in the US, and they added a rubber wall, so that's not that slippery. That's the setup in the UK. They just started building it a little bit bigger, and they have two sites. So site 1 is just Everest 1.0, and then the other half of Everest is 2.0.
Does the 2.0 have the rounded edge that we're used to?
Yeah. But even the 2.0 over here is a lot smaller than the regular Everest in the US.
I can hear thousands of listeners raising their hands in hallelujahs right now.
Yeah. And I hope that I'm not completely wrong and that they don't set up the biggest Everest ever. That would be a disappointment. But,
you know what though? I remember hearing about them. There was some negative media coverage, and I think there was an injury, and then they actually made it. They put not stick 'em, but something so you could almost just walk up the wall and keep going.
Yeah, they set up lines in front of Everest so that you couldn't run anymore, but you actually had to walk to the very bottom of Everest, and then there were ropes. So it was basically the grappler on the small Everest. That was the end of last season in the UK, and it was. But I still think it is the surface, because I've never seen as many wipeouts as in the UK. So, and the surface on Everest was always so super, super slippery that even people who can do Everest and who get up Everest on them, by themselves, they just wiped out. And so I think that's why they changed it. And of course, the negative media, like you said.
So Anke, I'm looking at this next obstacle after Everest, and I'm not sure I totally believe it, but the 16th obstacle, according to the course map, is electroshock therapy.
Yes. I've seen that, and I'm like, are you kidding me? There has to be a penalty option. Hopefully.
Electroshock therapy is the kind of iconic Tough Mudder finisher obstacle up, for every year up till now. You're running through live wires for about 50 feet, getting electrocuted the entire way. And it's not fun at all.
Absolutely not. And let's see if hopefully they will add a penalty. But if not, that's going to make many people cry, including me. I'm not looking forward to EST and getting electrocuted in the middle of the night. So, yeah.
This is the first Toughest Mudder that has had electroshock therapy, except for the very first one that had it as a penalty option for Kong, which was kind of a deal. But to actually have it as an obstacle on the course, this is the first time this has happened.
Yep, that's interesting. It's very interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see what they have as a penalty, because I can see a lot of people choosing the sandbag carry, if it is a sandbag carry, what it usually is, as a penalty over going through EST.
I don't know if you remember in Chicago last year, they had Operation, and
at
every
the
toughest
1 mile penalty loop.
Yeah, at every toughest up to that point, there was a short penalty for skipping operations. So that's what most people did because you could get shocked. You weren't required to get shocked, but it was possible. But the penalty for operation in Chicago was almost a mile long.
Yes.
So people were like, you know what? I've got to get this operation done. I hope they don't do that for electroshock in Germany.
Yeah, that would not be so nice, but I mean, they have to come up with something. And people hated the 1 mile penalty loop in Chicago. And so it would be interesting to see operation over here. I'm not sure why they couldn't bring it over. But so we've got EST.
So let's say there's a mile-long penalty for electroshock therapy, and you're a runner that is you're competing for the podium. You say, I have to go through electroshock therapy. What's the best strategy for making it through that?
Run, just run, and keep your hands up, and cover your head so that you don't get zapped in the head. But just run.
Keep those, and also if they have hay bales, I would keep high knees so you don't accidentally trip yourself.
Very true.
If you're in a wetsuit, maybe if it's warm, you probably won't have the wetsuit on, but that's probably ideal for running through it because it'll protect your body a little bit. You'll still get shocked, but it won't maybe burn you as much.
But it will hurt. No matter what you're wearing.
There's no trick to getting through without getting shocked. You're gonna get hurt.
And it's. I would still always choose the 1 mile penalty loop because I hate getting zapped. And Chicago, I got zapped at operation, and it was so painful. They was like, nope, I'm going back to the penalty loop. That's okay.
The last two obstacles, Kong/Kong Infinity. What do you think about Kong Infinity? The setup for the regular Kong is just rings, and they are actually pretty low. So there's not no ladder you have to climb up, like climbing up to Kong Infinity. And in northern Germany, Kong Infinity broke at some point, and it was funny because when we were walking past, the Kong Infinity made some super strange noises. And next time we came past, Kong Infinity wasn't working. We're like, oh, Kong is sick, and but it's I think it's a good finisher obstacle, and but it's the same setup. Like you climb up, you've got that huge inflatable bag, and Kong Infinity across. And then the final obstacle is Pyramid Scheme 2.0. I notice it's not happy ending.
They don't have the big pool in front of Pyramid Scheme like at Happy Ending, at least not in Germany. At the last events, they had just Pyramid Scheme with a small ditch in front of it, like it used to be last year in the US. And they have ropes. They had ropes in the UK. So I think it's going to be the regular Pyramid Scheme with ropes.
So then the backside won't be a slide; it'll be just kind of a climb down.
Yeah. We don't. They at the very beginning of the season they sent out an email saying they could not see how they could set up Happy Ending for it to work properly over here, and that's why they decided to just do the front side of Happy Ending, but it's just a climb down at the backside.
So those are your 18 obstacles. Then you'll finish your lap. You'll come into the pit area. How do you handle the pit or the pitting? When I was pitting for Austin in Canada, I learned a trick with the lap bags. So it's just small Ziploc bags that I prepared before the race, label them, put numbers on them. So when I come into the pit, I will just grab a bottle of Tailwind and one of the bags and go, and not necessarily stop if everything goes well. And then I'm not fast, so I can eat and drink while walking, and so that I don't lose that much time in the pit. Anke, do you have any other advice or any thoughts on Toughest Mudder Berlin?
I'm excited. It's the first one, so I'm excited how everything is just going to be, and how the atmosphere is going to be, and who's going to show up, and of course who's going to win. And I'm really looking forward to the weekend because it's a nice course. It's a fun course. I think the map looks as if it's going to be a great event.
Anke Frederich, thanks much.
Thank you, Will.
And we're back. Going live. Guys, I know what Anke said. Definitely bring a wetsuit. In fact, I just remembered I haven't packed my pants, so I need to grab the pants on my way out the door here. If you are going to Germany's Toughest Mudder, you should shoot me an email, willhicks@gmail.com. I'm not going to promise we'll do anything, but if we do something, I will let you know. willhicks@gmail.com. If you are going to Toughest Mudder Berlin, or if you want to give feedback on this episode, I am going to run tougher in the morning and then run toughest that night. And that is a bad idea. But I'm going all the way to Germany from San Diego. I kind of have to run a regular Tough Mudder while I'm over there, right? Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. But if you're looking for mileage at Toughest Mudder, you should not run Tougher Mudder or anything Saturday morning. Just take a break. So how about this no edit thing, huh? I know it's different. Okay, maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's terrible. I can't tell right now. It's 2:58 in the morning. But when's the last time you did something for the first time? So that's what we're calling this. I will talk to you next week. If you're going to Berlin, I will see you in a couple of days. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and I will see you next week. Go spend time with someone you love.